Okay, guys, here it is, the moment that we've been waiting for. Presenting the most up to date, inclusive, multi perspective blueprint series of blueprints, nearly 600 pages of blueprints on how to get our data networks and data centers more sustainable now. Today, right now, I am honored to announce that we are launching Greener Data Volume 2, now available on Amazon. This multi-author visionary book features the voices of over 50 authors, their stories, their perspectives, leaders in the data center and network infrastructure community from around the world, all coming together to offer us actionable insights on the path to greener data. The book focuses on 4 key sustainability topics facing our industry. 1, aligning measurements. 2, renewable and clean energy solutions. 3, power and cooling innovations. And finally, 4, financial and social benefits of going green. I'm Jamie Scotto-Cutaia, CEO and founder of JSA, and I'm so honored to be joined by top sustainability analyst Mary Allen, the CCO at Insight as a Service, and who I'm proud to say was our sustainability lead for this project here at JSA, the compilation of Greener Data Volume 2. Mary, welcome. Collaborating with you on these books and these authors has been a true blessing and honor. Thank you for the development of these cornerstone chapters, all 4 of them. So, Mary, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Jamie, and thanks for the opportunity to work on this second volume of Greener Data with you and to work with you a little more closely than I did with the first volume. It's really an amazing effort. I'm so impressed by the number of people we had contribute and the quality of their contributions. So thank you and your team at JSA for organizing that and making all of this possible.
Thank you. We could not have done it without your incredible insight, your amazing editorial guidance, and of course, the creation of each of these cornerstone chapters. Now, let's take the very first slice of the book. The first chapter, the cornerstone chapter, really incredible topic, measurement. What are the right measurements? When, why, how can we as an industry push forward and be talking the right things at the right time? It's a tough topic. Who did you get to join you with this contribution of this cornerstone chapter?
Yeah, so the first chapter is called Measure to Manage Sustainability Metrics and Reporting in Data Center Networks. And to develop this chapter, what we did was gather input from a really diverse range of experts who each had unique perspectives on the challenges and opportunities in monitoring, managing, and reporting on sustainability. We had a fantastic team. Excuse me, we had Susanna Cass, who's the co-founder of InfraPrime, who helped us to establish a broader state-level context for data center reporting. We also had Dean Nelson, who talked about the potential for innovation in reporting techniques, 2 words you don't often hear together, and also on the positive impact of collective action on sustainability. We also heard from Vicki Warden, who's the CEO at the Green Building Initiative, who identified a hierarchy of sustainability standards and frameworks, excuse me, that it's important to know, and also the importance of a holistic approach to sustainability reporting. We had Sean Novak join us, who was then CEO of N0, who described new outcomes that are possible with automation and real-time energy data. And the final contributor to this chapter was Patricia Leiva, who's the Senior Manager of Sustainability Engagement at Equinix. So Patricia's been in the thick of sustainability reporting for some time, and so she was able to help us understand or make our way through some of the complexity around Scope 3 reporting in data center and co-location environments. So we had a wonderful list of contributors for this chapter.
Truly an all-star group of leaders, particularly on sustainability in our industry. Blow away list there. What are some of the key takeaways that you might want to give our readers, our viewers today, a little sneak peek at for that cornerstone chapter?
Sure. So, Jamie, for a long time, we've known that the first step on the path towards improved sustainability is to set a baseline. And this is using key metrics that can help us measure progress towards a particular goal or to help the data center operator benchmark against their peers. But I think a key takeaway from the chapter is the fact that sustainability measurement in the data center, it no longer operates in isolation. It's now a part of broader climate science and policy initiatives that are designed to keep global temperature increases to 1.5 degrees, 0 degrees C. So many data center operations have now developed UN-sanctioned science-based sustainability targets, and they've declared net zero emissions plans, or even better, that align with state-level commitments and also global goals. So data center action on sustainability is now part of a global movement, and it's designed to address the climate emergency. A second takeaway is that better environmental performance is now being driven by institutional pressures. So it's not just we want to do well for the planet. There are a variety of stakeholders, and depending on the organization, it could include employees, it could include customers, it could include investors, who now each have their own commitments and targets on sustainability, and they're asking for better performance from their suppliers, but they're also asking for their suppliers to be able to demonstrate this performance through reliable reporting. So that's really a big key. And then this need, this institutional pressure, is really being driven by enhanced regulation. A lot of this is coming from the EU. So we have the CSRD, the EU Code of Conduct for data centers, the European Energy Efficiency Directive, and other regulations that sound far away, but they're not really when you understand that now in a global trading context, regulations in one area are also something that you have to take into account in another. But a point here is that this is coming to other jurisdictions, including the US. So here we see increased requirements for sustainability reporting in financial reportings by organizations like the SEC, but also, I just heard this week, the US government is now going to mandate energy consumption reporting for crypto facilities. So this is quite different. And the question for operators here is what happens next for data centers. So something to keep in mind. And a final takeaway from this chapter, there's a lot in here, and it's hard to reproduce it, but the final snippet I thought here that's important is that even though there are sustainability challenges, and this could be the lack of standards, lack of staff resources or expertise to do the measurement, monitoring, and reporting that is now required, problems with Scope 3 reporting in supply chain, or even double counting, which is a complex issue in itself, things are getting better. So there are now many reporting mechanisms that work together to roll up to some global frameworks and standards. That's important. So the data center operator now has a better basis for placing themselves in context. And at the same time, there are new tools that are emerging every day that can help. So this could include platforms that automate management of monitoring data, but also automate reporting. And this has a great impact on easing the burden for organizations that need to report, but also improving the accuracy of reporting that's going on. So lots going on in this field. And really now every data center has what they need to start, and they should start their sustainability reporting journey.
Yeah, amazing. And like you said, we're heading in the right direction. We're getting better at this each and every day. And again, your cornerstone chapter, the very first chapter of Volume 2, Greener Data, really a wonderful piece for those trying to figure out how to get on this path of measurement for success. And you guys really do a wonderful job discussing the issues at hand and again providing that blueprint forward. So thank you so much for giving our audience that sneak peek on the very first chapter. Let's go ahead and hear from some of the authors from our first section of Greener Data Volume 2.
The chapter looks at the core functions of the industry, but I take the position that incremental improvements won't get us much further, and being dogmatic about sustainability and sustainability optics is also a shortcut to failure. So it takes a look at some of the places we've gone wrong, some of the places we could go wrong, but directionally where we could go right. And I suppose it comes down to math versus sustainability trends, but in a relatable way, hopefully.
My chapter discusses the evolution and innovation of data center technology at Flexential. We focus on how we are shaping the future of data centers through advanced power and cooling strategies. It highlights really the importance of data centers in today's era of digital transformation, in particular in meeting the high performance computing demands of AI and machine learning workloads.
So the chapter is titled Making Your ICT Value Chain Net Zero. And in it, I present a framework for addressing emissions from purchased goods and services. This can be somewhat of a daunting task as it involves what they call Scope 3 emissions from your value chain. And these are typically the largest source of emissions for a company in the ICT industry. And it has everything that makes addressing climate change tricky. It's hard to measure, it's beyond your direct control, it requires a longer time horizon, and involves changing the behavior of others. To add to the complexity of this task, many companies have thousands upon thousands of suppliers. So my chapter gives some insight into where to start and how to build a program. And it's based on the work that I've been doing over the past few years, specifically engaging procurement and creating a framework for sustainable procurement, which I call the Net Zero Framework for Purchased Goods and Services and Capital Goods.
Sure. The EchoSense chapter is on accelerating data center sustainability journeys. And we spent many, many years developing innovative energy efficiency solutions for data centers. So it's exciting for me, and I have to say long overdue, to see data center sustainability and the whole greener data center movement start to get some real momentum. Key takeaways from the chapter. It really is around data center workload is only going one way. And that was long before obviously the much heralded AI deployments and the huge growth coming down the pipe from AI. But it's a challenge. So balancing this unprecedented, almost once in a lifetime workload growth against non-negotiable energy efficiency programs is just a massive challenge for the whole industry. So we look at ways how you can balance this huge growth while still delivering on energy efficiency programs. And it's just vital that you have the right tools, the right processes to make informed decisions based on very real-time data sets to deliver ultimately tangible deliverables to make energy efficiency savings.
And we are back. I'm Jamie Scotto Kataya, CEO and founder of JSA. And today I am speaking with the top sustainability analyst, Mary Allen, about the 4 key sustainability themes that are the focus in our new book, Greener Data Volume 2, out today on Amazon. Okay, Mary. The second portion of this book focuses on a very big topic: renewable and clean energy solutions. This is where innovation really hits our industry hard. What was the theme of the Cornerstone chapter for you, and who are the contributors you got to sit down and talk with?
Yeah, Jamie, thank you. This was a really interesting chapter to write because the topic and the content really evolved out of a new understanding of the subject that our contributors brought to the table. So initially, it was intended to be a deep dive into the use of renewable energy in the data center, but it ended up developing into a much broader discussion of the multiple pathways that are available to support a shift away from the use of carbon-dense energy. So the chapter is called Low Carbon Solutions, Pathways to Energy Maturity in the Data Center. And in developing this content, we had really insightful input from a range of energy solution experts who offered their perspective on what's coming in the future, but also what is possible today, which is really key. So this group included Jeff Barber, who's the VP of Global Data Center Sales at Bloom Energy. And Jeff focused on the incredible potential of fuel cell technology to save today's power challenges. We also had Michael Donahue, Managing Director at Cumulus Data, who helped us understand how nuclear is coming to play a unique role in developing the carbon-free baseline power that data centers need. We also had Brian Jabak, VP of Sales at Enchanted Rock, who helped us understand what I call the art of the possible. So that's adapting low carbon solutions today to increase the ultimate impact in the fight against climate change. We were privileged to have Ahsan Nasser, who's lead scientist with the Data Center Advanced Development team at Microsoft, who focused on the benefits of a hybrid strategy. So this might include data centers working with the grid, the development of renewable assets, or the creation of new efficiencies in IT and facilities operations. So lots of opportunities for a very large provider. We also had Anand Ramesh, who's the SVP of Advanced Technology at EdgeConneX, who shared the results of a successful pilot in energy matching, a revolutionary concept that you'll hear more about in the book. And also we had great input from Sindhu Sharma, who's the head of ESG at Nextra by Airtel, who shared insights from his extensive experience implementing solar solutions in the data center. So we had many different perspectives on this issue.
What a great group, and what a great range of alternative energy. So tell us, what were the key takeaways from this chapter?
Yeah, so I think in threes. And we had three takeaways from this chapter that align with the triad of solution approaches that we defined as green electrons, green molecules, and also green bits. So the first topic we tackled was green electrons. And a key point here is that in the past, the data center industry may have been demonized as an energy hog. This is, an ongoing characterization. But today, the industry is now the largest corporate purchaser through power purchase agreements of renewable energy on a global basis. And, if these purchases are not enough to decarbonize the grid, it may be that the industry can act as an example, as a model for other carbon-dense industries as they think about integrating more renewables into their energy mix. A second key takeaway is that green bits are playing an increasingly important role in the energy transition. So this could involve digital solutions to support data center and grid interactivity, which is a key emerging area that is also discussed at length in the book by many contributors. Or it can involve solutions that enable energy matching. And this is where you match the energy consumption in the data center with the use of renewable resources. And one of the key benefits of this, besides energy efficiency improvements, is that the consumer is able to avoid any sense or any charge of greenwashing. So it's a pretty important technique. In both of these examples, and there are many others, I'm sure, these solutions really highlight the critical role of the data center in affecting change. Green bits also enable the use of microgrid. So this is a growing technology that supports the stability of the power supply in cases where power is not available. There are regions in the world that power is not available, but sometimes the grid goes down. And this is often the case when there are climate events. So the microgrid's really important for providing that stability. But another thing it can do is it can ensure that the power that we're using is green power or green molecules. So they become green molecules when the microgrid solution, the technology, is powered by low carbon solutions. And we hear about that in the chapter too. So low carbon solutions such as renewable natural gas or hydrogen powered fuel cells. So that's the third takeaway, is that data center operations of all types and sizes can now participate in the low carbon energy transitions. So for large organizations, it may be in the form of PPAs, purchasing renewable energy. For the smaller enterprise level data center, there are on-site green power solutions that they are able to implement today. And that's a key.
Amazing takeaways. And I love your power of three, no pun intended. And thank you again, Mary, for that sneak peek of that cornerstone chapter. Now let's go ahead and listen in for some other authors in the second section of Greener Data, Volume 2.
A quick high-level overview of my chapter. On-site power generation for data centers, microgrids, leveraging one of the cleanest sources of fuel available, which is natural gas or hydrogen or biogas. We introduced the Bloom technology, but most importantly, I spent a lot of time writing about the fact that natural gas and taking steps to reduce carbon today using natural gas is the most effective thing we can do, certainly for a greener data center design, a greener future. I spent a lot of time going into the metrics around that as well. And the fact that natural gas, for some reason right now, has kind of a bad rap, especially when you're not burning anything. Bloom does not combust. Bloom is converting those molecules to electrons. And so I spend quite a bit of time in the chapter talking about how we can take pragmatic, real steps towards carbon reduction while solving the power problem we have with data centers, the utility problem.
You know, the main point of the chapter is that sustainability is not simple. It is a complicated problem, and it requires comprehensive solutions. And we need to make sure that while we're finding solutions and implementing them, we do it without exacerbating other problems or creating new ones. So I think if I had to boil it down to the three takeaways, the first one is that we're all in it together. The solutions that we pursue, they have to work for everyone globally, not just our industry or not just a particular player. We need to find holistic, comprehensive solutions. The other one, like I said, we can't break something else. There's 17 SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals. There's 9 planetary boundaries, and we have to keep our eye on all of them. And I think really at the very bottom line, the simplest way to become more sustainable is to take less and make less, and therefore we waste less.
The chapter, deals into the realm of the green data centers, addressing the imperative of balancing technologies, expansion with environmental responsibility. It emphasizes the necessity of transitional towards the sustainable practices to mitigate the environmental impact of data centers. That we have talked about few strategies, including optimizing the energy efficient infrastructure, harnessing renewable energy sources, overcoming the challenges such as high initial cost and legacy infrastructure. There, we also incorporated few case studies where we highlight how successful implementation eventually help the organization to bring all those sustainability initiatives within the business and demonstrate the successful benefits, including cost reduction as well as decreased carbon emissions.
Yeah, so what I've written about in Greener Data really touches on the substantive changes that the free market, in my view, can be making to impact the cleanliness of our environment, and how imperative it is that the IT industry, in particular with all the advanced applications that are coming online, leverages some of the new technologies with cooling, in particular liquid cooling and immersion. And the spoiler alert is that, in my view, the tech industry can do more right now than it is doing, and probably more than most other industries in the immediate that could have a material impact on a greener environment.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jamie Scotto Kataya, CEO and founder of JSA. And we couldn't be more excited today to talk about the launch of Greener Data Volume 2. And I'm chatting here today with top sustainability analyst Mary Allen and my friend about the key 4 sustainability themes that are central to this new book. Mary, the third section of the book, one of the biggest, power and cooling innovations. We had such a tremendous outpouring of support and excitement over power and cooling innovations. You developed, of course, the cornerstone chapter leading into the section of this book. What is the theme of that chapter, and who contributed their expertise?
Yeah, so this chapter that introduces the third section of the book is called Green Fire: Innovation in Data Center Power and Cooling. And for the Greek scholars among you, the fire reference was to Prometheus, but that's kind of neither here nor there.
Okay.
This was a huge chapter to develop, Jamie, as you mentioned. It's you could write, and people have written many, many, many books on power and on cooling, but we did our best. The goal of the chapter is to provide an overview and to tweak some interest so that people who want to look and dig a little deeper may refer to other chapters in the section of the book that follows. So did a pretty good job. We were able to capture some of the key sustainability challenges and trends. And I was able to do that with contributions from an amazing group of people, including John Summers from the Research Institutes of Sweden. He's the research lead there, and he introduced us to some pretty revolutionary concepts like cryogenics and also Scope 4. We also had Mikhail Borisius, CMO of Asperitas, who focused on the critical importance of continuous management of advanced data center systems. So the idea being you don't just set and forget. We had Maxie Reynolds, who's the founder of Subsea Cloud, whose single-phase subsea data center pods rely on free ocean cooling. We had Bill Clayman of Apollo, who helped us understand something of the coming impact, the energy impact of AI, but also its potential to optimize data center systems. We had Tate Cantrell, CTO at Verne, who described the magnitude of increasing server densities. This is a scary prospect. And also the benefits of a hybrid approach to sustainability. We had Bill Severn, EVP at 1623 Farnham, who reminded us of the huge energy savings that are available in traditional data center approaches to energy conservation. We also had Melissa Reale Elliott, marketing manager at DC Blocks, who outlined the sustainability benefits of combining many of these advanced approaches in a singular modular build. And modular, for the sustainability folks in the crowd, is also one of those catchwords. They're just another level of sustainability benefits when you build modularly. We also had, as our final contributor to this section, Benjamin Crawford, who's the manager of business development for power systems at Kohler Energy. And he outlined how you can tweak some of these traditional approaches. For example, use low carbon fuel in gensets to great effect. So it seemed like we had just an enormous range of people who talked at the beginning level and also talked about very, very advanced approaches to power and cooling.
Yeah, such an incredible list of experts right there that you listed off, and such a wonderful range too. So many unique approaches to power and cooling. So, what were some key takeaways? I know you like to talk in the power of three. So, what is our three key takeaways for this Cornerstone chapter?
Thank you, Jamie. So, for me, the first key point in the chapter is that the data center industry has a very rich heritage in power and cooling innovation. So there are many, many, many options out there that are now available to operators to reduce energy consumption. And this ranges from tried and true practices such as hot aisle containment or the use of free air cooling to the use of software-based management approaches and the development of advanced energy efficiency IT and facilities equipment, and everything in between. So we have lots and lots of solution approaches available now. But in the context of climate emergency, I think what we need to also be thinking about is disruptive innovation. This is critical if the industry is going to act as a vehicle for climate mitigation, as opposed to an irresponsible consumer of resources that are going to be increasingly scarce. We've got a power supply that's threatened by aging infrastructure, increasingly frequent climate events, burgeoning demand for data center services that are associated with digitization, and new applications like AI and IoT. So in this context, the imperative, the sustainability imperative for data center takes on new urgency. So that was my second key takeaway. And then a final theme is the really dazzling array of innovation that's emerging today. So in our research call on this topic, we heard about AI's incredible ability to optimize power and cooling systems, but also to help with the management and the reporting issue that we heard about in the first chapter, and also about the powerful potential of liquid cooling in its various forms, because there are, of course, many types of liquid cooling, including undersea data center pods, to really address the needs of an increasingly dense server infrastructure. So we now have chips that are being designed to accommodate 1 trillion transistors. So that gives you some sense of, the cooling needs that we're going to be looking at. And in this kind of framework and in this new situation, I think we're going to be seeing some of these solutions like cryogenics that we think of as a future solution more quickly than we thought before.
And that really brings us to why we needed to write this second book 2 years after the first book. This is cutting edge. And these are topics that we are collaborating, innovating on together as an industry to push us forward, to keep us 2 years in advance of, again, this impending need, this urgency that you spoke so well of for our industry to really be a leader for other industries as we combat this climate crisis. So well said. Thank you so much again for this preview on our Power and Cooling Innovations Cornerstone chapter. Brilliant as always, Ms. Mary Allen. Now let's go ahead and listen in to some of the other authors.
There are two defining trends of our time: digitization and sustainability. So on the one hand, everything that can be digitized will be digitized, driving a huge amount of data and need for compute. On the other hand, we have a rapidly evolving climate crisis, with governments, businesses, individuals needing to take urgent action to curb emissions. The data center sits at the intersection of these mega trends. It's where digital transformation meets the climate crisis head on. So every time we as consumers go online, we do our banking, we do our online shopping, we stream a TV series, a process starts in a data center. If this data center is power hungry, coal-fired, energy inefficient, and lets excess heat into the atmosphere, then we are contributing to climate change, and most likely unknowingly, all of us. My chapter starts with a personal story of when I tried to explain what I do at work to my young daughter, and failing miserably in getting her remotely interested. I finally managed to capture her interest when we got into a discussion on how watching My Little Pony on her iPad started a process in a data center that recycled the excess heat from the servers to warm the radiators in our home in snowy Stockholm. So the first part of my chapter looks at digital infrastructure through the eyes of a child and helps land how being a part of this industry affords us an opportunity to, in my daughter's words, help the world become a better place. So in my chapter, I also zoom in on innovation that is transforming the data center industry, how the digital data explosion fuels the need for high density data centers, and why modern data centers need to have heat reuse, circular economy principles, innovative cooling, and work in tandem with the climate. These are all existing industry innovations that are starting to be deployed at large scale. I use some of Atnorth's Nordic data centers to give real examples in the chapter. Lastly, I also zoom out and look at what factors that can accelerate innovation, accelerate change. And I believe that customers, so the buyers of data centers, and consumers, so anyone who consumes digital services, will increasingly act as change agents and accelerate the shift towards greener data.
So our chapter, it begins closely examining our tactics towards efficient power utilization, because frankly, no data center can talk about their sustainability initiatives without tackling this problem and their consumption, how they're limiting their consumption. So we focus on introducing the chapter of how we originated in building smaller, highly efficient data centers using the equipment and technologies that we knew would operate the best. And so all of those goals were to reduce energy usage for operations, for cooling, for lighting, and all of those, and taking deliberate actions across our system designs, our operational procedures. It looks into how we've applied different tools and systems to actively monitor those. A little bit into our designs about how we feature primarily waterless cooling, or in one case, closed loop cooling, where we try to recognize there are trade-offs between air and water-cooled facilities. So you'd have to dive into that section for that. I look a little bit into balancing production, not just the consumption side of things, in looking to how we've worked with our utility partners, what they're providing to us in terms of renewable energy mix. And last, I actually cover some of the sustainability assessments that we've used to evaluate and substantiate our commitments, because, you know, we wanted to make sure we believe we're doing the right thing. We wanted this vetted by an industry third party. So this was performed by Informatech. It's their DEEP, or Data Center Energy Efficiency Program. And it scrutinized our energy, water usage, mechanical, electrical, airflow, operational processes. It was actually intense. And they looked at other things we did, like building a recycling program for construction materials where nothing had existed at the time. So they balanced all of that, and they came out with a gold DEEP, a gold level certification for their deep review. And that's the highest tier that you can achieve. So that's our chapter, is diving in and looking through the course that journey has taken. Key that it's a journey. It's one we'll continue to navigate our course on very, very carefully, and in every way strive to do the right thing for our customers, our stakeholders, our communities, and the world.
My chapter is entitled Sustainability at Cell Towers. That's obviously an area of focus for me and something that we know a fair amount about. I read the Greener Data issue, Volume 1, and was very impressed with the content and the direction that it took. But I noticed that it was very data center centric. And I thought we need to contribute something that will include other aspects of digital infrastructure, such as towers, because it's an ecosystem. It's all tied together. Towers to fiber to data centers, all the traffic that comes off the towers ends up in data centers. So I thought a contribution that would relate to the tower aspect of the digital infrastructure would be useful and informative. The chapter covers the size of the tower market. We estimate in the United States there's about 185,000 towers that are used by the cellular carriers. That's about 10 times that internationally, and that doesn't even include 2 million towers in China that are state-owned and operated. Yeah, every tower has the mobile network operators as tenants. They install their radio equipment and antennas to broadcast signals over the air to our devices, our smartphones, and that takes up a lot of power. So when you extrapolate the numbers of towers times the numbers of tenants on those towers and the equipment that's being used and the power required at each site to run all of that, it adds up to pretty significant proportions of power consumption and drives a lot of considerations as to how do we sustain that? How do we make that more energy efficient? And how do we meet greenhouse gas emission goals? There's actually, I talk in the chapter, there's 3 partners, if you will, on the tower. There's the tower company itself that owns the tower and the land under the tower. That's passive infrastructure. There's the mobile network operator that installs the radio and the base station equipment to broadcast and receive signals to and from devices. That's all active equipment and requires power. And then there's the manufacturers themselves of the radio equipment and the supporting infrastructure that are all contribute to making cell sites very power efficient and sustainable for the future. So I tried to encapsulate that in my chapter to demonstrate that there are other considerations within the ecosystem outside of data centers that need to be looked at and need to be addressed by the operators, and how to drive a very energy efficient operation.
I'm Jamie Scotto-Cataia, CEO and founder of JSA. And joining me today, my leading sustainability analyst, Mary Allen, to talk about the launch of our Volume 2 Greener Data book, just now out on Amazon. And Mary, as we were talking about, there are 4 sections in this book. Today, right now, we're going to talk about that last final section. Really, the importance of the why we're doing it, not just the how that we're doing it, the financial and social benefits of going green. Tell us a little bit more, and who contributed to this Cornerstone chapter with you?
Yeah, so in many ways, this was the most difficult subject in the book to develop, but also I think one of the most important topics, because data centers don't operate in a vacuum. To be successful going forward, industry players are really going to have to think differently about risk and about reward and about the sustainability of their operations. So it's not just about reducing your energy consumption anymore. It's about creating an ecosystem that works together to achieve community goals. Fortunately, we were able for this chapter to gather input from some really thoughtful leaders on this topic people with long-term expertise and history in the industry. So the final cornerstone chapter is called Reconstructing the Business Case for Data Center Sustainability. And it features contributions from Peter Panfil, who's the VP of Global Power at Vertiv, who has direct experience that he shared with us on data centers needing to bring their own power. So yet another acronym that we can all memorize, BYOP. Also, Francois Sterin, who's the COO at Data4, who's really helped us to understand best practices, or how best practices in sustainability can create the social license that data centers will need for ongoing growth. We had Michael Boron, who's a broker and VP with the Data Center Advisory Group at Cushman & Wakefield, who provided a really excellent view of the data center market imperatives and what these imperatives might, the effect these imperatives might have on sustainability. We also had Peter Nisbet, who's a managing partner at Eden 7, who offered deep insight into growing regulatory requirements and the importance of sustainability planning and strategy. So the goal is to get ahead of regulation, get ahead of the situation where you're only reactive. We also had Dean Boyle from EcoSense, who helped us really understand a vision of the sustainable data center that's completely integrated into a connected community. And this vision concludes what I think is a really important chapter. Along the way, we had wonderful discussions about some of this in action, including input from Qscale, a data center from Quebec that's now engaged in this community outreach, heating greenhouses with waste energy from the data center.
What an incredible roster of leaders, incredible companies, organizations, but also the thought leaders of each one of those, and a very unique chapter. So let's break it down to some key takeaways that our readers could be looking forward to.
Sure, thanks, Jamie. So this chapter really begins with the idea that we've cracked the code on the traditional financial case for sustainability in the data center. So in Europe, for example, it's now actually cheaper to contract PPAs for renewable energy than it is to source energy from traditional utility providers. Wow. And in the rest of the world, the financial payback from energy conservation is pretty clear, even in those jurisdictions like the US where there's no carbon tax. So we have financial justification. This is no longer an excuse. But if we're going to address climate issues or even the longer term viability of the industry, we have to think about the business case in a new way. So right now, the industry is on fire with huge demand increases, but data centers that don't take into account new risks to sustainability or the impact of the triple ecos. We used to talk about the twin ecos, environment and eco, but now we're adding a third factor into this, which is ecosystem. The thought is that they will become vulnerable. So a third takeaway in the chapter is that in building a 3P, which is people, planet, and profits, business case for sustainability, data centers are going to have to work really hard to build the social license that is needed to allow them to grow and expand. So if they're not, they will have to expand if they're going to meet our increasing demand for digital services. But if they are viewed by local communities as competitors for resources, and this would include power, water, and land, or as carbon emitters or emitters of local pollution, they're not going to get the permitting and the license they need to build the resources that they need. So data centers to help themselves will have to talk to local municipalities, talk to regulators, talk to the utilities, and even to educational institutions to start to develop a new image for the data center as a good corporate citizen who contributes to community health and prosperity, or else face the consequences, which may mean that they don't have access to many of the resources that in the past they've been able just to take for granted. So a very thoughtful chapter, the last one, and some fantastic chapter contributions.
Incredible, incredible. And to your point, it's an ecosystem, and we as data centers, we as data networks are integral part of this ecosystem. We give back to the communities that we're part of, and really that goes so well in introducing to some of these great chapters by incredible authors that follow this cornerstone chapter, all on again the social and financial benefits of going green. Let's go ahead and listen in to some other chapter authors.
In my chapter, I basically go beyond what I would call the hard business case to describe a bit what is a soft business case. The hard business case is what everybody knows about, is like how we can achieve economies through energy efficiency, for instance, through new renewable energy that are cheaper than conventional energy, meaning by doing some stuff that is good for the environment, you're also doing something that is good for the bottom line, which obviously aligns super well. The soft business case is more about what's coming is like this data center getting bigger and bigger and have challenges to get accepted. And so sustainability is going to be the key to get data center to be accepted by local communities. So the next generation data center are going to be sustainable or will not be. So this is what I call the soft business case, because we're talking about the very existence of the next generation of data center through sustainability.
Yeah, so our chapter is about how data centers can actually be used to solve potentially UN SDG 6, people not having access to water, and UN SDG 7, people not having access to electricity, by thinking outside of the box and placing them, as I mentioned in the introduction, in emerging market rural areas, these micro data centers that are powered by solar. So really the chapter just kind of goes into how we sort of came to the idea, then also some of the trials and tribulations of being an early stage startup relying on a brand new technology like Starlink, and what are some of the early outcomes of our initial prototypes and projects. And finally, the most important is how we see this scaling up and what this will look like in the future.
Right. So AI is a technology that, from the data center perspective, is requiring significantly more density. Now, at the same time, it's also an exponential technology. So the higher density means that previously maybe you had 5 kilowatt racks, and for a megawatt you used 200 racks. Now, if you have 100 kilowatt racks, you have 10 racks only. So what does this change mean for the data center space? So in addition to kind of moving fast ahead, the technology is exponential. So it kind of feeds, it needs more and more capacity. And at the same time, the overall requirement for the data center is changing. So the implication is that we're moving towards liquid cooling. And at the same time, there are several different paths for that liquid cooling. So in this space that's moving fast and it's changing fast, how do you ensure that the data center remains sustainable and optimally becomes more sustainable, so that AI is actually part of the solution rather than the problem, if you will, with regard to the environment?
Yeah, the chapter that I've written is about painting the right picture around business cases, particularly around sustainability business cases. And the most important part is that we see regularly when we're talking to customers about how business cases are presented to the C-suite, and how a lot of them sometimes really don't get across and be approved. There's a very common case where no is one of the easiest answers that comes back from the senior management team. So the purpose of the chapter is to really break down what makes a really good business case, and hopefully enables the reader to understand how they can structure it to make sure that they do get the approval. Key points and key takeaways from those things are about knowing the future of your business and really forward scanning the market to really help the C-suites to understand how their environment is changing and why the business case can really help the organization move forward. Second more important point is around really knowing your numbers. It's very easy to assume that sustainability business case is all about carbon reduction, but ultimately it's about making sure that you really know the numbers, because it really needs to make a financial benefit into the organization as well as an environmental benefit as well. And then one of the most important parts of delivering a sustainability business case is about making sure that you use the right language. Within the world of sustainability, we're very good at making sure that it all gets very complicated, and therefore only the ones that are involved in the markets really understand all the abbreviations, etc. And making sure that you want to really get your business case approved means that you really need to simplify the language and make sure it is absolutely crystal clear on what you're requesting, and the timelines that you're looking for the paybacks to be presented to the business as well. So those are the three key takeaways from the chapter.
Yeah. So the key takeaways for the chapter, I was so excited to be able to participate in this project. I mean, first and foremost, sustainability is one of the core values that we have here at Dartpoint. So this is not only important to us from as we evolve as a data center operator, but it's truly important to us as a company that we contribute as we think about the impacts that our business has on the environment, and how we can always look to improve that and be more competitive. But the title of my chapter is really the interconnect domain between finance, sustainability, and innovation. And I was so excited to get that as our title, because it really covers the entire ecosystem end to end as it relates to the data center sector and the impacts that the data center sector is having on the environment. And really, the four key takeaways that I would identify in our chapter are really, first and foremost, is growth that the sector is experiencing. When you think about data demand and you think about where data centers sit in the ecosystem, right? We're at the core of what drives that data demand, not only today, but these enormous future projections, right? The ecosystems that we create in our facilities are really the drivers that enable all that. So that's one, right? How sustainable is that going forward, and what are the impacts on the environment, given just the enormous power demand that our ecosystems create, and particularly when you think about the tailwinds of AI and machine learning type opportunities, that demand only exponentially grows. The second point, really, in our chapter is really about capital, right? We're a business that requires an enormous amount of capital to continue to grow. We are a capital-intensive business, and the chapter that we were able to participate in really addresses the impact of capital coming into the industry, the impact of sustainability, and particularly around the new entrants of capital coming into the market, and how they want to focus capital being deployed in a very sustainable way. And so we really address that, and I'm excited about the impacts that's having on the industry. The third one is innovation, right? That's what Dartpoints is all about. We consider ourselves really to be thought leaders in the industry, right? We want to be perceived as innovators. When you think about sustainability, and I mentioned the power demand in the industry, generally people tend to just kind of think about alternative power sources, whether that's wind, or whether it's other types of power solutions that are being talked about. But when you really understand what's going on within the data center ecosystem, that's just one component, right? Design, processes, tools, procedures, technology, right? How you become very efficient through advanced technology and innovation. All of that end-to-end ecosystem really comes into play when you begin to think about sustainability within the data center sector, and how do you really maximize the benefit that we can have on the environment. And then, of course, the last one of the key learning is the customer, right? That is clearly an environment where if you want to be relevant as a data center provider, not only today, but in the future, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, you have to evolve your thinking, the way we build our platforms, the way we deploy our platforms, all has to have a mindset of sustainability, because customers today, whether you're engaging in a prospective discussion as they look at you as a potential partner, or they're a customer in your existing environment, they're demanding solutions that are environmentally friendly. And if you want to continue to do business with them, you've got to be able to deliver and demonstrate that that's a direction you're developing and evolving your company. So those are really the 4 key takeaways and the 4 areas that we focus on within our chapter within the book.